People often talk about showing up more fully present. And although it sounds like a nice idea, no one is ever fully present. Presence actually is something that occurs in degrees, which, as you listen to what I have to share with you in this broadcast, you'll understand what I mean by that. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, anyway, I have so much detail packed into this article, and there's no way humanly possible that I or anyone else can remember everything that's included here. So I will be referring to my notes or even reading sections. So bear with me. So, what I do on a daily basis, and I encourage other people to do so as well, is to make a concerted effort to become more and more mindful, catching yourself at those times when you check out, you're not being all that present. And when that happens, I suggest that you make a concerted effort to bring more of yourself into the here and now. In the past few months, I've experienced some frustration in my effort to connect with people either that I've worked with, people that I've known in other contexts who have been a part of my life, whether it's wishing someone a happy birthday, receiving a Christmas greeting. I'm recording at the end of the year. But anyway, um, or simply feeling it's been a really long time. Let's connect over the phone and talk, even if for just a few minutes. And sometimes it's also about logistical matters. I have travel coming up in the coming months. And so I need to coordinate schedules and dates and plane tickets and all this kind of stuff. And so even 5 to 15 minutes would be adequate. But sometimes it's hard to get people on the phone. And keeping in touch is important. There's something irreplaceable about actually speaking instead of just firing a few text messages back and forth. It's so easy to feel disappointed when we do reach out and we don't receive the response that we hope for. And while many of us are living demanding lives, it's important to remember that maintaining meaningful connections requires effort. And when someone takes the time to reach out, responding, it's not just a courtesy, it's a way of showing that you value and appreciate this other individual. And ignoring these opportunities risks taking people for granted, sending an unspoken message that their effort to connect with you really doesn't matter. There have been numerous incidents in which I've reached out to someone, a person I've worked with, someone I considered a friend, even my father years ago. I didn't hear back. And in those moments, I thought to myself, that's it. Fuck it. I'm done. I didn't see any point in maintaining a one sided relationship. For me, it's better to walk away. And yes, I've had relationships in that way. And the immediate loss can sting at times, but it creates the opening for more reciprocal connections. In today's world, many of us have become so disconnected. We're spending more and more time on our devices, we're scrolling on social media, we're caught up in work. And yet, so many people, ironically, complain about feeling lonely. And we fail to recognize that meaningful connections don't just happen, they require time, intention, and effort. And taking even a small amount of time to engage and to reach back can go a long way in sustaining relationships that truly matter. In years past, you'd simply pick up the phone and call someone. And if they didn't answer, you'd leave a voicemail and they'd call you back. Sometimes friends would even stop by unannounced, and there was a natural flow to it. These days, there's this new etiquette, partly because people are so busy. And for many, this lies in the fact that people are less adept at conversation, and there's a noticeable lack of flexibility and spontaneity when it comes to engaging with others. The norm now is to text someone first and arrange a time to call. And while I can see the value in scheduling a time, I also can't help but miss the spontaneity and the immediacy of engagement and the way if someone was available, they'd simply pick up the phone and dive right into conversation. One of the things I've missed most about the 90s is how my practice seemed to sustain itself. And back then, people were less distracted, less inundated with the fire hose of digital media continually blasting our sensory channels that we now contend with. And today I have to work exponentially harder, not only to get people's attention, but to hold it long enough to facilitate the healing that they came to me seeking. And my days usually begin with meditation and Qigong, martial arts practice. And the remainder of the day is filled with the individual healing sessions I facilitate for others, calls to make, books to read and listen to, notes to take, articles to write, videos to film, newsletters to send. And often my agenda for the day is on my mind from the moment I wake up. But there are times when something breaks through the structure of my day, an unexpected moment of connection. Maybe I meet someone spontaneously at an event and get caught up in a conversation on a flight or even while I'm commuting by subway. I feel that natural openness I experience with people I connect with when I'm spending time in countries in other parts of the world, where curiosity and spontaneity seem to flow effortlessly. And sometimes it's a phone call from someone on the other side of the planet, someone who isn't caught up in me. Send a text to arrange a call, etiquette. Maybe they've read an article I've wrote or watched a video I've posted on YouTube and felt moved to reach out to me. In these moments, I let go of my agenda. I drop what I'm doing and I just remind myself to simply be present, to feel the connection and fully engage, even if it's just for that brief encounter. It's in these moments that I tap into something profound, the beauty of authentic connection and the richness and depth and dimension that it brings to my life. So many people nowadays rely on texting as their primary mode of communication. And while texting can be effective for logistical details like I'm running 10 minutes late, I'll be there around 6 this evening, it falls far short when it comes to meaningful interactions. Texting keeps us in a dissociative mode of communication because it's the least present we can possibly be while engaging with another person, because you can't hear the sound of their voice, hear their tone or inflection. You can't see their facial expressions or feel their presence. And this often leads to misinterpretations and misunderstandings, which are all too common. What's more, texting deprives us the vital nutrients we derived from face to face interactions, or even hearing the sound of another person's voice over the phone. And over time, our minds, our brains, and our bodies become habituated to being increasingly removed from direct engagement with other human beings. And this disconnection profoundly impacts our ability to form meaningful relationships and truly understand one another. And it's especially frustrating when people I work with, many of whom are dealing with health related issues, trauma, or feeling overwhelmed by their emotions, attempt to address these complex matters via text, because I can't adequately address these issues through a few lines on a screen. And there are logistical matters involving travel and dates and flights and accommodations and other details where we need to ensure that we're on the same page. So when I have something I need to say that I want to make sure the other person fully understands what I'm trying to communicate, I make a concerted effort to get them on the phone. This way, we're both fully present, engaging in real time. and far less likely to misinterpret or miss the nuances of the conversation. There are a lot of sections in this article, and the next one is about the fact that there are so many forms of meditation out there. And while some practices are incredibly powerful and highly effective, others offer little in the way of substantial benefits. In recent years, meditation apps and guided meditations have become very popular. But these are often like preschool or kindergarten when it comes to meditation, helpful for beginners, but ultimately focused on something outside of yourself. And they don't go deep enough to be truly transformative or effective. Another concern I have is that many forms of meditation encourage a kind of spiritual bypass. These practices can leave you disconnected and more dissociated from your body and the realities of this world. A lot of people are drawn to these kinds of practices because they don't want to be present in their bodies or face the challenges and the truths of their lives and the realities of this world. For years, I've been teaching meditation practices that help people work effectively with their emotional responses to the challenges they face, whether it's from struggles in a relationship, the pain of a breakup or divorce, financial insecurity, the loss of a job, or the need to heal deeply rooted traumatic wounds. These practices provide a constructive means to engage with those difficulties. And not only do they help you process and navigate these challenges, but also allow you to gain creative insights and come up with workable solutions. One example is to bring any person or situation that feels challenging to the forefront of your awareness. And notice as you do so any feelings or bodily sensations as you focus on this person or situation. And then breathe softly and deeply while fully immersing your awareness in the depths of those feelings and sensations. Follow them as they go through their progression, allowing yourself to stay present with whatever arises. Working with this practice engages the innate healing intelligence residing within your own body and mind, helping you to gain clarity, develop resilience, and navigate life's challenges with greater ease and understanding. In my own daily meditation practice, I bring as much presence and awareness as I can to any feelings or bodily sensations that I'm experiencing, whether they're vague or vivid. I fully immerse my awareness in these feelings and sensations, which helps me to feel more connected and present in my body. And over time, this practice has allowed me to become more integrated with the various parts of myself, gaining valuable insights, inspiration, and deepen my levels of self awareness. I'm continually developing a greater awareness of the driving forces behind my own words and actions, as well as other people and my surroundings. Over the years, I've developed many versions of this practice. Sometimes I'll focus in my chest cavity where my heart and lungs reside, or move my attention to my abdomen, going into the depths of my intestines, or areas of tension in my neck and shoulders and upper back. These parts of my body often hold stagnant emotions I haven't been able to process. And by bringing as much of my awareness as possible into these areas while breathing softly and deeply, I can access and process the emotions and release the tension held therein and become more present in these parts of my body. Now, we all, to some degree, tense up or contract in situations where we feel intimidated, whether by another individual, a group of people, certain circumstances. And when I notice this happening, I make a concerted effort to catch myself. Through intention, I bring more of my presence into my body, focusing especially on the areas that are tensing up. I'll also extend my presence, allowing it to fill the space around me while breathing softly and deeply into whatever arises, be it anxiety, feelings of intimidation, awkwardness, nervousness, or any other discomfort. If the discomfort persists, I'll continue to follow the feelings and sensations as they go through their progression. In many instances, I can feel myself gradually softening and letting go, a sense of deepening into my body, opening more fully to my interactions while simultaneously opening more fully into my interactions with other people and into my surroundings. As I do so, I become more present in the moment, occupying not only more of my body, but also more of the space around me, creating a deeper sense of connection and ease. I also want to talk about intentional breathing because most of us are not particularly conscious of our breathing and tend to breathe high up in our chest. And this creates several problems. One, your body and your brain are not getting enough oxygen. You can't engage in the deep level processing of your emotional responses to life's events. And you're also not fully inhabiting your body. And for this reason, it's important to be especially mindful of how you're breathing. Check in periodically throughout the day, especially during any moments you find yourself feeling stressed or intimidated, say you're overwhelmed by circumstances. And first, simply notice how you're breathing. Are your breaths shallow and confined to your chest? And if so, start by deepening your breathing. Breathe all the way down to your abdomen, allowing your ribcage to expand. Inhale as slowly and deeply as you can, and then exhale just as slowly, releasing as much air as you can from your lungs. This simple act of breathing deeply and fully will increase your presence. It helps to ground you into your body, bringing you back again into your body, creating the foundation for engaging more consciously and effectively with whatever life throws your way. One of the things that I found especially disturbing is how so many people have this way of tuning out. And I understand a lot of people disengage because being fully aware and truly understanding what's happening can feel overwhelming and even painful. And for many, this avoidance leads to a state of low awareness. I often notice it with these low information voters, or undecided voters, who haven't really been paying attention. But even worse, it can mean being a useful idiot, buying into deceptive messaging, and voting against your own best interests, as well as the interests of those whom you truly care about. For example, some Latino voters who supported Trump, whose policies can lead to the deportation of their own friends and even immediate family members who are undocumented. Others voted for him, and other Republicans who are actually working to cut Social Security and Medicare, programs that they've been contributing to their entire working lives while simultaneously handing out tax breaks to corporations and billionaires. And while I know I may offend a few people with my political views, I'm to the point I just don't care anymore. But tuning out isn't an option if we want to be present and engage with the world around us. Being a socially responsible human being means finding a balance, staying informed without burning out, being aware while also managing how much we take in. And this is where discernment comes in. To show up more fully present, we must cultivate the discipline to distinguish between making ourselves aware and harming ourselves with too much information. It's about choosing your battles and focusing on issues that matter most to you. Perhaps you're passionate about the environment, reproductive rights, or another critical cause. Lean in to those passions and find your community. because working together not only amplifies your impact, but it also ensures that you don't feel isolated in your efforts. Awareness can feel heavy, especially for those of us who are deeply empathetic. And there is a grief that comes with truly witnessing the suffering and injustices that others are facing or that you yourself have experienced firsthand. And this grieving is not a sign of weakness, but an essential part of being human. It's your soul signaling that something isn't right. And rather than shutting it out, welcome that grief. Let it guide you to ask, what is my response to what I'm seeing? How can I transform this sadness and frustration into something meaningful? Grief and sadness, while painful, are powerful tools for transformation. They can remind us of what matters most and help us to reconnect with our why. What can I be doing to make things better? Why am I here? How can I reaffirm my values and find purpose in my actions? And in the midst of this pain, seek beauty. Let your awareness and empathy inspire you to stay in the fight, to create change, and to remain human in times that can feel so inhumane. And by staying present, managing your emotional responses, and focusing on what you can contribute, you cultivate deeper connection with yourself, your community, and the world. It's not just about knowing, it's about transforming that knowledge into action and hope. Next, I want to talk about letting down our barriers to intimacy. After grieving the loss of a broken engagement in my mid 30s, I realized I truly wanted to be in a serious long term relationship. And with that in mind, I began engaging with women I encountered in conversation wherever I went. And before long, I noticed that I related to most of the women I encountered as platonic friends, but I still enjoyed the connection and the conversations. And but women in New York City, where I happened to move to around that time, tended to be much more guarded as opposed to the Midwest and New Mexico, where people tended to be more open and friendly and trusting. And many were a bit taken aback when I first initiated conversations. However, I managed to get them to open up, and it was clear that many of them were enjoying the interaction. And anytime I sensed otherwise, I would simply excuse myself and move on. Whenever I sensed mutual enjoyment, I would say in parting, what steps can we take to continue this conversation? And we often exchange contact information, yet in many instances, I never saw or heard from them again. At other times, we might exchange a few texts, but then after a few messages, it would just stop. And that was so disappointing to me. Even if there was initially that openness, curiosity, they were enjoying the connection, they couldn't sustain that openness. Despite my extraordinary efforts, I never found the connection I longed for in New York City. Instead, I formed connections while spending time in Ohio, Argentina, Japan, UK, India, and Sri Lanka, and China. Often commuting great distances, maintaining these long distance relationships. And along the way, I also developed platonic friendships with women I connected with in these other parts of the world. Over a decade, I offered classes on Monday evenings in Manhattan and alternate Tuesdays in Boston, helping people to heal their heartache, let go and move on after a breakup or divorce or ghosting. And some of the women who attended my classes or worked with me individually or that I knew as friends would at times complain to me about not having anyone in their lives and that they weren't meeting the kind of person that they were interested in. And I often responded to them by saying, do you not see the part you're playing in creating this reality? Some shared incidents of men making cat calls or being sexually inappropriate, or witnessing a man, say, exposing himself on the subway. And I felt sick inside hearing these accounts. And yet I would remind them that it's only a small percentage of men who behave so badly, and that the majority of men want more than anything to have someone in their lives that they could truly love and be loved by. And so I encourage these women to stay open to possibility and to tune into their intuition during encounters. I advise them to make eye contact and to smile and to engage in conversation. If they felt uncomfortable, I told them to excuse themselves. If they felt good about the interaction, then I urged them to continue the conversation. And if they still had a good feeling, I recommended that they exchange contact information before parting and to respond to the other person's text or call, or even reach out themselves to let the other person know that they enjoyed the conversation. I also suggested meeting again in a safe and neutral space. A number of the women who followed my recommendations partnered up. One even married the guy, all crediting me for the fact that they're now in relationship. And then I think of the millions of others who miss out on meaningful connections only to end up alone. Like so many New Yorkers, as they grow older, are settling for someone they're not all that happy with. And that's why I often encourage people to keep themselves open to possibility. And the situation in New York has improved for many now that we have dating apps like Hinge and Tinder. At least people are connecting to some extent. And yet, those connections often remain fleeting and superficial. It's common for someone to be seeing multiple partners, or you feel like you're connecting with someone only to have that person ghost you. I also want to talk about the importance of cultivating resilience. All of us at some point in life experience setbacks and painful, if not absolutely devastating losses. Maybe it's not getting accepted into the university you had your heart set on, or struggling to succeed in your academic pursuits. And in today's uncertain world, many face the harsh reality of job insecurity, losing their position, getting laid off, and having to repeatedly change jobs or careers just to survive. Heartbreak is something we all endure, often multiple times, whether it's through a breakup or divorce or being ghosted, or enduring a succession of partners who have abused and abandoned us. Estrangement within families is also common, as is the loss of people we once thought of as friends, sometimes due to misunderstandings, often because they drift away, or in some cases, they weird out on us for reasons we can't fully understand. And of course, there's the inevitable grief that comes when people we care about pass away. These losses can be incredibly painful. And because most people don't know how to work effectively with their own emotional responses, they end up not digesting their lived experiences or emotions. Consequently, they contract around these painful losses and the emotions held within their bodies. And this is why I teach people to bring whatever person or situation or challenge they're facing to the forefront of their awareness, to notice how they're feeling in response to it and where these feelings are situated within their bodies. I then guide them to breathe softly and deeply while fully immersing their awareness in the depths of these feelings and bodily sensations, following them as they go through their progression. Digesting your lived experiences and emotional responses facilitates the healing of the deep emotional wounds. It helps you to come to terms with the realities of your life and allows you to let go when necessary. It also enables you to tap into a greater source of strength, helping you to develop the resilience needed to show up more fully present. There are limits to the healing we can facilitate on our own. As I've said numerous times, we all need to be making use of the most effective therapeutic interventions, deep tissue body work, the sessions I've done with gifted healers, and the many vision quests I've gone through. This traditional Native American healing practice that involves fasting alone in the mountains for 4 days and nights with no food and no water have enabled me to not only heal my own deep emotional wounds, but also to become more present and to gain access to greater resources, to develop the capacity to be ever more effective. Another aspect of being present that we need to consider is how we self medicate, something we all do to some degree, whether it's eating too much when we feel nervous, or lighting up a cigarette, or binging on chocolate or ice cream, or drinking way too much coffee. Often we consume items that not only harm our bodies, but also dull our awareness. Refined sugar and other processed foods, for instance, lack any real nutritional value and even deaden our consciousness. And additionally, many of us overeat as a way to avoid feelings or confronting the realities we're not willing to face. And while psychotropic medications may be the best known option for those who pose a danger to themselves and others, they can also have especially harmful consequences. Depression can, in some instances, also result from an inflammatory response in the brain and may be addressed with supplements and dietary changes that reduce inflammation and support healthy brain function. However, many people are relying upon antidepressants and other meds because they don't possess either the resources or the understanding that would enable them to work effectively to process their lived experiences and their subsequent emotional responses. And many people are numbing themselves and disengaging from the realities of daily life and their emotions through alcohol and other recreational drugs. It's important for us to minimize our reliance on these substances, as well as on certain foods and medications that diminish our mental and emotional lucidity and harm our bodies. Caring for our bodies and our cognitive and our emotional well being enables us to cultivate greater awareness and to become more fully present. One of the questions I ask myself from time to time is, where am I shrinking? It's something that we all do, various times and situations. We have a tendency to contract around the stress and distressing emotions we're holding in our bodies. And this contraction prevents us from being as present or engaging as we could be. And over time, it causes us to lose our range of motion physically, cognitively, and emotionally. We shrink into an ever smaller box, a pattern that becomes ever more apparent as we age. Many of us are way too busy, caught up in the grind, are spending too much time scrolling through our social media feeds. And for some, like so many New Yorkers, we're surrounded by amazing people, yet stuck in a guarded mindset, lacking the openness, the curiosity, and willingness to engage and explore. Maybe there are things we're interested in, things we want to do, but we hesitate to take a chance. We hold back, letting fear or distraction keep us from stepping into experiences that could truly enrich our lives. Our capacity to show up fully present is strongly influenced by our family of origin, our cultural background, and the culture that we're currently living in. And it can be incredibly helpful to step outside of that which is familiar, especially if we live in an environment where people are less open and engaging. Spending time with individuals and groups and within cultures where people are relationally more open and engaging can broaden our perspective and help us to develop deeper connections. Many of us are resistant to showing up more fully present because presence often requires vulnerability, allowing others to see us authentically, imperfections and all. And we sometimes avoid presence because vulnerability can feel risky, but it's essential for creating deeper and more meaningful connections. The fear of rejection also causes many of us to hold back in personal relationships and prevents us from reaching out and embracing new opportunities. Rejection can be extraordinarily painful, evoking feelings of sadness and disappointment and hurt. And yet, it's essential for us to be reaching out, connecting with others, and asserting our needs and desires. And when things don't go our way and the other person doesn't reciprocate, breathing into those feelings can help us to find a source of inner strength and develop greater humility and compassion and empathy and resilience. It also enables us to move forward and stay open to the individuals who are more receptive, as well as to the new doorways and possibilities that await us. That can be challenging for those of us who struggle with feelings of inadequacy. In some instances, the very act of showing up may bring these feelings to the surface. However, by breathing into the emotions as they arise, we can begin to heal our underlying sense of inadequacy and undeservingness. And over time, this practice helps us to cultivate self acceptance and appreciation, allowing us to feel more worthy and deserving. Lastly, many of us tend to avoid conflict, but doing so only reinforces our disconnection. We literally shrink. Our range of motion diminishes. Conflict avoidance also perpetuates misunderstandings, making a consistent effort to stay present, even during uncomfortable or contentious moments, allows us to address important issues, to resolve conflict, to build inner strength, and to expand our presence. Another good question to be asking yourself daily is, how can I be showing up more fully present? Showing up more fully present isn't a one time event or a passing phase, but an ongoing lifelong process. Our presence evolves as we navigate various situations and interactions and the challenges we face along the way. There are so many opportunities to practice being more fully present in our everyday lives. We can start with small, simple moments, greeting a neighbor, exchanging a few words with the cashier while making a purchase, being mindful of the people waiting in line behind us, of course, are taking the time to truly listen to a friend or coworker. Even these small acts of presence can make a difference. While texting, social media, and other aspects of technology can often feel isolating, we can intentionally be using these tools to establish deeper connections. For instance, rather than relying solely on texting, we can take the extra step of making a phone call are initiating a video call. These more personal forms of communication bring added degrees of presence, allowing us to connect more authentically and to deepen our relationships. Even better, we can take it a step further by saying, let's get together. Let's meet in person, turning these digital connections into meaningful real world interactions. Being more present not only helps us to manage our emotions more effectively by reducing stress, but it also offers significant physical benefits, such as lowering blood pressure, strengthening immunity, and it could even contribute to greater longevity. And for those of us committed to healing and growth, it's essential to be mindful of the ways that we fail to show up in our lives. We need to be making a concerted effort to become more fully present. It can be incredibly helpful to be asking ourselves, where am I shrinking or hiding, failing to do my part, or not showing up as I could? This self awareness creates the opportunity for us to step out of our comfort zones, the little box that we've created for ourselves, to expand our presence and to engage in life more authentically and in a more fulfilling way. By showing up more fully present, we not only transform ourselves and our relationships, but also everyone with whom we interact. Our presence can then inspire others to be more authentic, to live more fully, contributing to the creation of a better world. Hey, thank you for taking time to join me today. And if you enjoy what I've had to share, be sure to look below to click like and subscribe. Watch my other videos. Share this video with anyone else who also may benefit from hearing what you've heard today.